Welcome back everyone to my first ever video game thoughts and review. This was kinda unplanned and a spur of the moment on my part. But hey, strike while the iron is still hot and all that. At least you guys have something else to tie you over on my channel until the next Grow and Prove It video comes out. Now, I'm not sure when this video will be finished, but I just finished watching GT Live's playthrough of Secret of the Mimic yesterday. Because I don't have the game. And man, that was a bit rough. The playthrough, that is. No offense, Ash, but there is such a thing as being too cautious. Yet all well that ends well, as I still had an enjoyable time reacting to the game. Seriously, this game is great, getting a good scoring in all the important categories to me for a good FNaF game, or a game in general, especially in the lore department. I mean, a ton of stuff was revealed, and it's going to be the foundation for any FNaF timeline theorist or enthusiast, which is something I wouldn't call myself. But there was plenty of stuff that was up my alley, and even stuff that I would never have thought of being a possibility. Like this.
Around here somewhere.
Where is it?
Oh, you're cold. Getting hotter. Hotter. You're burning up.
Which if you know, you know. Or stuff like the fact that Roxy was in this game, or that she's not a Foxy-like offshoot character, but was always her own character with no relation to Foxy other than the fact that they come from the same creator. Speaking of whom, Edwin and Fiona. Who could have guessed that these two, especially Fiona, played such a major role in helping create the Freddy franchise as we know it from Fredbear's? That certainly wasn't on my bingo board for this game. Literally, I made a bingo board for this game. I was going to make a video or a short about it, but I was way too busy rushing to finish up my Help Wanted 2 deep dive before the game was released, which was completed the day before the official release, and completely finished the day of. What that means is that I had no more thoughts to add to the final post of my Help Wanted 2 deep dive. But yeah, the bingo board. I'm not sure if I'll ever do another one, but if I do, I'm going to try and make sure to make a video for it next time for you all to participate in. Because while I didn't get a bingo on my 5x5 bingo card, I did, however, manage to get 13 out of 24 predictions correct for what might happen in this game or what could be revealed. Well, 11 if we're being stingy. But honestly, that's pretty good. Especially since I was still close to getting a bingo even though I was trying to mix match easy predictions with hard ones. But I'm not going to dive into or show all of my predictions, as either I've discussed them in some other video, don't require explanation, or they spoil/require some needed explanations from my Help Wanted 2 Prove It theories, which is something that no one but those who read my deep dive on Reddit would know. But don't worry, that series is going to be formatted into videos and appearing on this channel relatively soon, if you're interested in listening to it. However, I will be going into 3 of those predictions. Why them? Because I think they're funny. First up is Mixes is a mimic. Sure, this could be argued as a low-hanging fruit since he was teased to be from Murray Costume Manor in Help Wanted 2's update. But that's why I specifically put is a mimic, because if there was any game that we would get any clarification on my ruin theory about mixes, it would have been this game. And well, the game doesn't explicitly say that Mixes is a mimic, but his box does contain a mimic, and that mimic is connected to and controls a huge building security system, with their fate at the end of the game being ambiguous. Who's to say that mimic eventually fused with the Mixes program? But I don't know. A small part of me wants to say yes, the big part wants to say no. However, the analytical side says I need to rewatch a couple of cutscenes and do a deep dive into this game to get a proper answer. But for now, I'm leaning towards no. The second is a fire. In what could be argued as the lowest hanging fruit on this board, I'll admit I was struggling to fill in some of these boxes, but there was some thought behind this besides how common it is that there's a building being set on fire in the end. One part has to do with the Help Wanted 2 theory spoiler, but the other has to do with the way the mimic is described in its first appearance in the Tales books, as is shown in the prototype video. So I was betting that the mimic was going to get a bit toasty in a fire, which, what in the world did Edwin make this thing out of? Seriously, The Mimic is the most durable and fireproof thing the series has ever seen. What exactly was everyone expecting David and the Mimic to be doing to make him practically a Terminator when it goes rogue? I'm pretty sure we have enough evidence now that it can be argued that the Mimic could put up a decent fight or even beat a Terminator. And it was made in the 70s. But in the end, a fire, while a safe prediction, was the right prediction. Leaving us with the final prediction I'm willing to dive into on the bingo board. Sink Place. I bet you're all thinking, no, surely not. Could I have predicted that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, the restaurant in the sinkhole, was the same place as Murray's Costume Manor? You're right, I didn't. I proved it. Long before I, and even the majority of the public, had even seen the game after the debut trailer, I found enough evidence in the middle of my Help Wanted 2 deep dive to prove that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place was once Murray's Costume Manor. How? Something I casually mentioned in the Bonnie episode that I didn't go further into in both of my Ruined series is that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place is much bigger than what security breach led us to believe. In fact, it's too big. This restaurant, this building in the sinkhole, has stairwells that lead at least 7 or 8 floors down beneath the main floor, with possibly more areas going down further. There's no way that this is the same building we were in Pizzeria's simulator. There's no possible way Henry built Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place with the sole intention of gathering all the rogue killer animatronics there and burning himself with them, if there was plenty of areas for them to hide from the fire and breakable walls for them to burst through. But it is. The name of the restaurant and the layout of his dining room proves that without a doubt. Again, this leads to confusion about how big this building is. Adding even more confusion to the mix is the first epilogue of the Tales book description of what the place looked like after FNaF 6, but before the Pizza Place construction was built, with the character in that story tasked with breaking down endoskeletons noting that the building was bulging with bare endoskeletons. Something that shouldn't be true even if you include every possible animatronic you can obtain in Pizzeria Simulator, because only the main 4 antagonists of the game were specifically sectioned off from the rest of the Pizzeria to be burned, which is why there's still a building intact after the ending in the first place, leaving the other animatronics that could have been in that building to stand the test of time after that building was condemned and abandoned, leaving the possibility of those animatronics casing withering away. Except, not all the extra animatronics in that game had the same type of endo casing, meaning there should have at least been more than a couple of animatronics with the endo casing still intact. More than that, in that same epilogue, there were at least 6 or 7 people down in that restaurant in the sinkhole breaking down those endoskeletons, a task that should have been a breeze if there was only those tronics in that building. But no, there had to be more animatronics or even endoskeletons there than just the extras to fit the description of a building bulging with bare endoskeletons. This is the part where fellow FNaF theorists, YouTubers, and even Steel Wool themselves unknowingly helped me figure this out. You see, last year, Steel Wool hosted a no-recording playable demo for Secret of the Mimic at PAX West, an event that both Dako and John FNaF attended to play that very demo, which they later, separately, uploaded onto YouTube with their account of what they saw and played. With their videos, along with Lemmy the Lemuel, this person's post from the FNaF Theories subreddit, I was able to parse through and verify various information of that demo to get the most accurate details of what exactly that demo contained. This is how I came across these 2 important bits of information that helped me solve the mystery of the restaurant in the sinkhole. 1, the elephant costume makes a return from ruin, and 2, the most important piece of info. The building looked to be a warehouse or storage for animatronics, and if you look down out of a window, you would see what looked to be a factory. I didn't think much of the first until I came across that second bit of info, as that's what sealed the deal for me that this new building was the same building as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, the same restaurant that's currently sitting in the sinkhole. Henry didn't build Pizzeria Simulator restaurant or reuse Fredbear's Diner like some believe. He had renovated it from an older place that he and the old Fazbear Entertainment had owned. That's why this restaurant in the sinkhole is so stupidly huge and ruined. It wasn't always a restaurant. It explains why there are so many bare endoskeletons in that place in the first epilogue. It even explains why there's a scooper room down there in the first place. Even when we got confirmation that the building of the game wasn't just some warehouse or factory, but takes place in Murray's Castle Manor, it only made me absolutely certain that these two places were one and the same. Which is why I wasn't surprised but overjoyed when we headed down to Murray's Castle Manor's research and development to find a familiar place waiting for us. As it stands, this Prove It theory is a record holder for a Prove It theory that's been proven by the games, and officially is the unbeatable record holder for the fastest time I'm able to create a Prove It theory for a game. Seriously, I don't think it's even possible for me to prove something about a game faster than that. Anyway, I'm sure you're all wondering which of these endings do I think is canon to the timeline. I'm shocked by all of them. I was absolutely sure how the canonical ending to this game was going to go. I mean, a couple of my predictions on the board was based on it. But I guess I did jump the gun a bit based on when the game takes place, as it is too early in the timeline for that to happen. Maybe I misinterpreted the evidence. Or maybe I need to rearrange the order of events for it to make sense. No, they purposely gave us the exact time frame for when it took place. Could it have happened twice? They never specified when the other event took place, so it could be the case. After all, things occurring multiple times on different dates is nothing new for the series. Well, since this video is already getting kinda long, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's this one. Why? Schematics. That's your only hint, as sorry, the evidence for it spoils the surprises for the next Prove It series. Something you're just gonna have to wait until that series, or the Jonesy Burroughs Help Wanted 2 series debuts. And wait even longer for my deep dive into the game to know if that's my final answer. Which, on the topic of deep dives, I'm thinking about skipping a deep dive on this game, or at least doing a short one. It's a game I feel like Help Wanted. A game where the FNaF community will really flourish in uncovering its secrets and the connection to the new era lore. And the game itself does a great job of showing you its lore. Sure, I'm calling it early on that, and that doesn't mean that there isn't some hidden lore or important things that people will miss in it that I can find. It just means that I feel like I don't have to thoroughly search the game from top to bottom like Ruin. Then again, I could be wrong, and it's another Help Wanted 2 where it's much deeper than at first glance. Either way, I'm still going to take another look at the game in the future. But right now, for me, Secret of the Mimic sits right next to Ruin at number 2 on my ranking for the new era FNaF games, while Help Wanted continues to be number 1 with its sequel in third, while Security Breach continues to be the podium that everything else stands on.